Good morning, dear students. Today we're going to be running through the task in which we'll have to deal with the demand and supply curves. This kind of task was presented to you 3 weeks ago, so you may perceive this kind of video lesson as a rehearsal. So without further ado, let's proceed to the. So that's how an average classic task may look like. So you'll be presented with the formulas of demand, which states for the QT 110 minus 4P and QS as stating for supply. Please pay attention to these letters. Don't confuse QD with QS. So the supply formula is 40 plus 6P. So we have already familiarized ourselves with the formulas of supply and demand, and given these information we have to determine the equilibrium price. It's subtask number 1, calculate the price elasticity of demand when the price increases from $12 to $13, and also we'll have to interpret the final result. So if as these kind of indicator elastic or inelastic. Also, we have to determine the influence of the state intervention in the form of a task. So $4 tax was imposed on each unit of production on the producer. So it's something that will influence the supply curve. And also, given this fact, we have to calculate the new equilibrium quantity. So let's start in chronological order with the determination of pretty easy. So equilibrium price, equilibrium point, or point of equilibrium is a point at which QD equals QS. So it's a point when the supply meets demand. So in other words, we have just to set the two equations equal to each other and solve for P. In other words, 110 minus 4P must be equal to 40 plus 6P. Utilizing the method of uh, from algebra, we'll find out that 70 equals 10p. That gives us the reason to think that p equals 7. So p equals $7. So the equilibrium price is $7. So that's an answer to the first sub question. Pretty. So now we have to calculate the price elasticity of demand when the price increases or changes. In this case, increases from $12 to $13. Remember, since we're dealing with the demand curve, we need to determine the price elasticity of demand. We're going to be working with the demand function. Please pay attention to these facts in the future and don't confuse QD with QS. So please be cautious. Otherwise, all your results will be useless and wrong. We remember from the lecture 3 that price elasticity of demands is the the percent change in quantity demanded divided by the percent change in price. So it's very easy. So the in the percent form, we have to find the change in quantity demanded and divide it to the change in price also in percent form. So please don't confuse these two parts. Don't divide the change in price on the change in quantity demanded. It's gonna be wrong. So please pay attention to these facts. So remember that initial price or P1 or PI in AI stands for initial, was $12. As for final price or PF, you can use the P2 abbreviation. It's up to you, is $13. So the price has risen from $12 to $13 by $1. In order to calculate the quantity demanded for each price, we have just to insert these numbers instead of P in each equation, which is the same, by the way. It's an equation of the QD. So the first result, determining the quantity when the P equals 12 is the following: 110 minus 4 multiplied by 12 equals 62. The same kind of thing we do to the PF or P2 per final price, which equals $13. QDF or QD2, it's up to you which way to choose. Quantity demanded final, since the price $13 is a final price. 110 minus 4 multiplied by 13, which equals 58. So when we write the price by $1, the quantity demanded is decreasing, is changing by 4 units. That's something you should not be afraid of. That's something that usually happens to various products, so don't worry. So the percentage change in quantity demanded, it's very easy to calculate. We have to deduct from the final quantity our initial one, so 58 minus 62 divided by the initial quantity. The initial quantity, or the quantity with the initial price, was 62. So don't divide it by 58, it's going to be wrong thing. So 58 minus 62 divided by 62 equals minus 6.45. Remember, a minus sign in the front number, the signal that demand has decreased, it has fallen. Don't worry about this kind of thing. Just eliminate the minus sign. It's going to be omitted. We are not interested in this kind of thing. We're interested only in the change. So in the further calculation, just use 6.45. It's not going to be the problem. As for the change in the price, very similar situation. So the final price minus the original one, our initial one, 13 minus 12, and all of this divided by the initial price, which is 12. And as a result, we have the 8.36%. And then we calculate the elasticity using this formula: 6.45 divided by 8.33. So the change in quantity demanded divided by change in the price, and as a result we have this number, 0.774. 0.774. In other words, it's less than 1, which means that this kind of elasticity is, this product is inelastic from the perspective of the demand. So pretty easy to interpret these results. This kind of number is an indicator that demand for the product is inelastic. It's inelastic, guys. Inelastic demand is a signal that the quantity demanded does not change significantly with the change in a price. From the business perspective, this kind of inelasticity suggests that increasing the price usually does not lead to significant drop in the sales. When the business people know that, the businessman knows that the demand is inelastic, he may be motivated to increase the price in order to increase its revenue, since the quantity demanded will not drop significantly. So that's how you may interpret this result. It's going to be more than enough for me. And also the subtask number 3, in which you have to determine the equilibrium quantity, the new equilibrium quantity, given the state intervention within which the government imposed a tax of $4 per unit of production on the producer. So remember that producer is on the side of QS or on supply side, so please pay attention to this. We are going to be working mostly with this formula, but this kind of formula is also there's something we're going to be needing within our calculation, but this kind of formula is something that will be impacted by these fiscal policy activities. So the tax of $4 per unit affect the supply curve, remember, because it's gonna increase the cost of production. In other words, the producer will receive $4 less from each unit sold, since it's a tax, because he has been imposed. So pretty easy to comprehend. So the original QS formula 40 plus 6p. Since now, given the fact that the state has imposed the tax, the producer is receiving $4 less from each unit sold. So in this case, we have to deduct $4 from the p. But remember, everything is going to be in brackets, so don't just add -4. It's going to be a mistake. So these kind of changes gonna be happening within the brackets. So 40 plus 6 multiplied by p minus 4. And since the supply curve has been impacted uh, and no demand has been influenced by the fiscal policy intervention, we have to take into account that the demand curve, the demand function is going to be the same. So the change is only in the supply curve. Demand curve remain the same. So we remember that the equilibrium point or equilibrium price or quantity is a point in which the QD equals QS. So knowing this information, we have just to equate these two uh, uh, equations. Excuse me. 110 minus 4p equals 40 plus 6 multiplied by p minus 4. So utilizing the basic knowledge of algebra, we receive the fact that 94 equals 10 multiplied by p. So in other words, p equals 9.4. So the state intervention has resulted in the increase in the price. So in order to determine the new equilibrium quantity, it's enough just to replace the p with this new equilibrium price. So any of these functions. For instance, the demand one, 110 minus 4 multiplied by 9.4, and in the end we have 72.4. 72.4. So that's the new equilibrium quantity. You have finished your task. If any questions, don't hesitate to ask. You still have the chance to contact me within my office hours. The last of one will happen on Monday. Thank you for your attention. Have a nice weekend.